When we called the NFL to send us Vince Beresford to be our spiritual linebacker here on campus, many people thought I was crazy, but I'm a firm believer in paradigm breaking and thinking outside of the box.
Chapel started 15 minutes ago! Adam, your accountability partner has arrived!
And since Vince has been with us, chapel attendance has been up 97%.
You know you gotta bring your Bible to floor devotions, Dan! How do you ever expect to be like Jesus?
Hey, Vince.
Hey, Andrea. You know
Our students are more spiritual than ever before. He makes people feel at home, closer to Jesus. To be honest, I wish we had 10 Vince Beresfords.
Yes! Right! Gospel's Act started 15 minutes ago. Alex, you want to play games with God? Well, when it's game time, it's pain time. Woo!
So I'm standing out, this little kid's looking up at this plaque, and he's looking at it, and there's like a list of all the guys who have died in the service. And he's looking, and then this little kid has like a big long face, and I said, "Hey buddy, what's the matter?" He goes, what are all these names? I said, "Those are all guys of men and women who died in the service." And he looked up with this horrible look in his face, and he said, "The 8 o'clock or the 10 o'clock. I was really afraid. But even growing up, you know, I used to, when I'd get in trouble growing up, if I ever got caught cussing, my mom would put Tabasco on my tongue. And, you know, and now, whenever I eat Mexican food, I feel really naughty.
Well, good morning. You know, one of my favorite Bible stories opens up with this picture of a hardworking dad. And he's got 2 kids, and he's really working and doing his best to create the best possible environment that he can. And after all, he's God, so he's got some resources working behind him. And after working so hard to create the perfect environment, his kids respond to him by doing the thing that he asked them not to do. Anybody relate to that? And the Bible is filled with depictions of imperfect people, and imperfect families, and children who make mistakes, and parents who make mistakes. And one of the things I love about the Bible, because it presents a pretty honest picture of the reality in which I live. How about you? You know, with the holiday season coming up, we have a lot of different emotions. For some, the holidays are a great time. They're an exciting time because it's a time of anticipation and reconnecting with your family members that you haven't seen in a while, and it's a place of warmth and just a lot of fun. But for some of us, holidays are a time of fear, maybe even a time of dread. For some of us, getting back together with our families means facing the person who abused you. For some, it's realizing and anticipating someone's probably going to abuse you again. But regardless of where we fall in that spectrum, would we all agree that regardless of our family, all families come with the challenge? Would you agree with that this morning? A wise sage once told me, this older pastor, he says, "Vince, you need to realize that everyone who walks through the doors of your church has a reason to go to counseling." But the problem is, so you see, not all dysfunction is visible from the outside, especially here in the land of gracious living, where we need to have our sweet SUVs with the nice rims and have it all together on the outside. And if we don't, then go and have it put on or taken off or whatever we need to do to make sure we portray this image. But the reality of it is, all of us struggle. All of our families struggle in one way, shape, or form. Now, hopefully your pendulum doesn't swing all the way to one side. But what I'd like to do today is I'd like to create what's called a family sculpture. I've had some volunteers. I'm going to invite them to come out. And I'm going to put together a depiction of a family sculpture. Now, the family sculpture I'm going to do for you today is one of an alcoholic family. And you can replace whatever problem you can or you'd like to, or maybe your own problem, with this idea of alcoholism within this family. But it's kind of give you a depiction of what it is a family may look like. And probably you're going to relate to one or more of the roles that are played within this family. Now, this is Greg. Greg is obviously an alcoholic. And just so you know, a little note, I didn't pick them because they fit perfectly within the categories. They just asked them to be actors. So if you see Greg walking around, you go, that's the guy, that's the guy. Okay. Just want to make sure. But Greg is what we call a functioning alcoholic. He works 9 to 5. He works very hard. And he's got a drinking problem. He struggles with alcohol. And all of the things that come out of that. And it's this alcohol problem that's kind of the elephant in the living room within this family. And now this is Mindy. Mindy is Greg's support system. And so much of Mindy's role is to come around and support Craig. And Greg, this makes Mindy the enabler. Now Mindy is very involved in church. She's there constantly. Greg may or may not attend church on a regular basis. We don't know. But Mindy is connected. She's in women's Bible studies. Even in women's Bible studies, she'll ask for prayer requests like, would you pray, my husband drinks a little bit much. But Mindy's the one when Greg has had too much to drink where she calls work for him and say he can't come in today because he has a doctor appointment or a dentist appointment. And she's the enabler. And then they have their oldest child, Melissa. Melissa is the hero. She's the hero of the family. She has a connection with both mom and dad. And she works very hard and she's very diligent because she really wants to gain the acceptance and the approval of her dad. And so she's the hero. And she does everything right and works and does everything she can to kind of help things balance and be connected within this family. And then there's Victoria. Victoria is the lost child. And the lost child isn't really connected at all. She's kind of separated from her family. No, she doesn't necessarily do drugs. She doesn't necessarily get bad grades. She just kind of exists within the context of the family. She's not really, doesn't happen to be the center of attention very much. She's just kind of lost in the chaos and the midst of this dysfunction. Now, one thing you need to know about many of the lost children, she will go away. When it's time for her to go to college, she's probably going to go to college out of state. And when she's out of state, she's probably going to meet her husband. And when she meets her husband, she's going to reconnect with his family and really separate hers and begin to invest in his. And there's probably a good number of lost children that are in this room. And next we have Zeke. As you could guess, Zeke is the clown. And Zeke, the way Zeke deals with his pain and dysfunction within this family, he deals by avoiding it, by using humor, by being obnoxious, which he's really good at, by the way. And so, exactly. And so what he does, he'll go around, and that's why it's really hard for Zeke to have a conversation about anything substantial. And so Zeke will go around his family, and he just kind of, he's the obnoxious little brother. Then we have Stephen. Stephen is the black sheep. You all know him. He realized at a very early age that dad got all the attention by a certain kind of behavior. And because he desires to have attention from his family, he found out that, you know what, negative attention is better than no attention at all. And so he began to learn at an early age that drugs and getting into trouble and getting bad grades and getting girls pregnant in high school and playing in a band. It's kidding, nothing wrong with the band. And so he began to play this role and began to gain his attention through negative and have negative attention. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask the family to line up here. And I want you to take a look at this family. I want you to begin to think about which one of these components do you best connect with? Because you probably don't fit nicely into a category. I mean, or you probably have shifted roles. I remember as a student, I started off and I was the black sheep. And then eventually, after I became a Christian and tried to get my life back together again, I became the hero. And you would probably play different roles as well. But let me share this with you. Do you realize just as you played a role within your immediate family, that God has uniquely gifted every single person in this room to play a role in this family? And that we need you to use your gifts and to become and to engage in what it is that we're doing here and not just be bystanders. so that we can have the healthiest family possible. And the thing we need to realize that grace needs to abound in any family. Would you agree? And so this morning, as we continue to explore this question, what is family? I hope that you begin to evaluate, because the importance of you evaluating your idea, your concept of family, it's directly connected with how you view this community and your relationship with God. And the more and the better that we can identify and articulate some of those things and how we relate, the more effective that we can become in being a part of this community and answering the question that this video we're about to watch asks of exactly what is family.